Hey everyone, it's Andre Luck here to share my video for this week where I'm going to talk about the next stage in the B2B revenue framework, which is around generating pipelines. So last week we talked about creating awareness and demand for your product in the B2B realm for sports. So now that you've created awareness and people are interested in your product, we need to make sure that we convert those into quality pipeline for our sales team, and they raise their hand and say that they want to meet with their sales team and they want to talk about how we can help them from a business standpoint. So what I'll talk through today is why pipeline is the number one issue in sports sales, really in sales in general, but particularly in sports, where sports teams go wrong when trying to generate pipeline and create pipeline. How the best sports teams that I've seen do a good job of consistently generating pipeline. And then lastly, how you can use tools and technology to really up level and pour gas on that fire to really scale your efforts and everything like that. So first, why pipeline is the number one issue? A lot of times I talk to teams, probably 99% say that, the goals are too high, expectations are unrealistic, and they don't know how they're going to get to their growth targets. And a lot of times that falls on the sales leader or the marketing leader. And a lot of times it's like, well, maybe the sales team isn't good enough. So we bring in a sales trainer to focus on closing techniques. Or, you turn over your marketing leader and bring in a new CMO that, worked at a big brand, worked for a big sports team, and they're going to have these new creative ideas. They're going to solve the problem. But a lot of times is a deeper rooted issue. Most times that's usually the situation, and it's focused around pipeline. You don't have enough pipeline to get to your numbers. And a lot of time goals are built off feel, or, our owner wants to get to this number because we want to field this team on the field. So let's go get it. Um, it doesn't happen in an off season. It doesn't happen over a couple months. Like, that is years of building up to get to a point where you can leverage and capitalize on it. And you have to make informed decisions based on your data. Like, what is in the pipeline right now that could potentially get converted in the next 6 to 12 months to get you to those numbers? It doesn't just come out of thin air. Even if the team plays well and there's this pent up demand, you're really relying on that as your strategy, and that's never going to set you up for long term success. So a lot of times you look at, all right, we want to take our growth target from 5 million to 10 million next year. And we have $12 million in pipeline. That's not enough. Even the best sales teams, they're going to close a good opportunity at a 20-25% run rate. So if you want to get to a $10 million goal, you have to have 40 plus million dollars in pipeline. And I guarantee most teams don't even know how to look and see, do I have enough pipeline to cover it? Like, where do I even start? You ask some people to, give your top prospects and everything like that, but it goes way deeper. Got to work with your data analytics team to see what leads are even in the funnel. Like, if you went out and looked at historically how we target new businesses, what the close and win rate from that, and like how much should we reasonably expect if we have X amount of salespeople targeting the market, how much can we bring in potential sales? But it's never around that. It's usually, here's what we need to get. Let's add more salespeople to get to that number. And if they don't get to it, then the sales team was just bad. And it's much deeper than that. There's a lot more that goes into getting to those numbers. So, I touched on a little bit why where teams get it wrong. But really the biggest is not creating new fans and new potential buyers. So a lot of times we focus on, the people that were already in our funnel, people that already bought tickets, past buyers, and we definitely need to have motions and campaigns around that. But what I talked about last week in my video was always having programs that are creating awareness and demand, especially in the B2B community, because that's a longer sales cycle. So you always need to have programs that are getting people into the pipeline so that eventually they'll be ready to close. So that work goes, back. Months, if not years of work that you need to do to get people to that point. Also, I talked about this last week also, there's a lot of struggle and friction between sales and marketing. And marketing, if they're even incentivized on a revenue target, doesn't have goals that are aligned to what the sales team is. So the sales team's focused on getting to a number, but the marketing team is maybe focused on just getting a number of leads in. Or most sports teams, I haven't seen marketing even accountable to driving a certain number of leads that are going to help the sales team. So a lot of times it falls on the sales leader, maybe the head of sales, a director of sales, or something like that, who doesn't have a data and analytics background, who doesn't have control over what we do from a marketing standpoint, that is tasked with now creating pipeline, which is really not just marketing, but entire go-to-market team's focus. But it's all accountable on that sales leader. So really, they should be focusing on closing sales, coaching their team, coaching their leaders, and there's support, and everyone's aligned around this goal of, all right, here's our revenue target. Here are the steps we need to take to do that. How do we all work as a team to help build that? So a lot of times it's, marketing's job to do this, sales to do that, and there's friction and there's not aligned goals across the team. The other thing where we go wrong, and I touched on this last week too, is we take B2C tactics towards B2B sales. So we're very transactional. We go for, all right, let's buy now. Group tickets are on sale, suites are on sale, but that's not how you communicate and move business buyers through the funnel. You need to tell testimonials, you need to tell stories, you need to give case studies of successful clients that have worked and let that pique their interest. You can do that through content on LinkedIn. You can do that through case studies of testimonials or getting referrals and things like that. Like that is how you market in the B2B world to get people to want to be interested in your product and potentially purchase from you or have a conversation with your sales team. And then on the sales side, there's not really a structured outbound process because a lot of it is, falls on marketing to help create pipeline, but it's also a big focus of sales. And so most sports sales teams, they pull some leads and then they make outbound calls, but there isn't a well-defined strategy on how are we going to go out and attack this market to get quality people that are going to convert at a higher rate into our pipeline. It's like, it's the off season, things are slow, or, we're way behind on our goal. Like we got to start calling businesses. Like that's something that should have always been on, but that was work that should have started 3, 6 months ago. And you can't just like run a quick campaign to businesses and hope they succeed. And I'm not throwing any shade at anyone because that was something I literally did every year of my leadership career. And as I look back and reflect, it's like, oh, I was never setting myself or my team up for success because that wasn't going to work in the long term, in the short term, or set us up for long term success. So, what have I seen the best teams do well? Whether it's people I saw while working in sports, and now I'm in a very unique position where I get to talk to a lot of the best sales leaders out there and hear the strategies that they're doing and kind of taking all those bits and pieces and share with the people that I work with and consult with. So what they're doing well. From a marketing standpoint, if they are sending emails, if they are doing ads, which I haven't seen a lot of people do paid ads from a B2B standpoint, but those that are, they're focused on the right messaging. They're not trying to get someone to buy right away. They're trying to nurture them and get them to the next stage of the process. So if there's no awareness around the team or they haven't had a relationship, they're maybe just trying to get them to the website, and they have a website that's dedicated towards talking to somebody who's at that stage in the funnel. They're not ready to buy yet. They want to learn more. They want to read more. They want to see what opportunities there are, what options they have. And then when they're ready, they'll reach out to sales. Like 70, 80% of the buying journey is done without salespeople now. So we need to make sure that we're curating and creating campaigns and our processes around what the modern buyer wants and the way that they consume content and make buying decisions. From a sales perspective, I touched on this, like being very strategic with who you're targeting. So working with your data analytics team on who's the best targets to go after because of who already buys and who's having success with our product. But when you go out with your messaging, it's not a generic spray and pray approach. It's not, we work with businesses. It's, using relevant messaging. If this is a VP of sales for, a construction company, what are challenges they face? What's messaging that would be most pertinent to them to show credibility that you understand what they're going through? So being very value driven, being very consultative, very targeted and thorough with your outreach, like those are ways that you'll get more people, you'll cut through the noise, get more people to respond back to you and book more meetings to have conversation with your sales team, which leads to pipeline, then sales, then renewals and everything like that. So the next stage in the process. Then from a leadership perspective, the best leaders I see out there, they're active, whether it's on LinkedIn, they're out in the community, they're doing things that are engaging the right type of business prospects that the team should be going after. So at conferences, they're doing podcasts, they're giving that air cover to the sales team and giving talking points and things like that that the sales team could really lean into or focus on and develop these relationships that could drive future success for them. The last thing I want to talk through is the tools and the technology that really help you accelerate your efforts when it comes to pipeline generation. I've touched on this a little bit, but didn't say specifically what the tool was, but like you need to have a strong infrastructure in your CRM system. If I could go back, if I was ever a CRO, I'm hiring a very strong RevOps data person that could run CRM and understands it, and I'll pay them more so they don't have to keep having turnover in my CRM process. So I have a structured foundational process that we could pull and make informed decisions of and make and have good data. So that's number one. LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I'm a huge advocate for that, especially from a prospecting pipeline generation standpoint. There's just so many filters, and I'm not just getting it for my team. I'm making them do in-depth training. I'm bringing in experts that understand how to use that and can coach them and teach them how to fully maximize it and leverage it, because there's so many opportunities to use that and pair that up with a database tool or database provider so that Now you're doing the right type of research because most people update their LinkedIn very quickly. So you can prospect better with LinkedIn Sales Navigator and some of the filtering functions. And then you have direct contact information through a Zoom Info, and Apollo, Sales Intel, whatever it is. You can directly reach out to somebody over email, get their cell phone. You don't have to call a general line and talk to a gatekeeper. You can go directly to the source and talk to the person. So those are the tools I have in my pipeline generation tech stack to help me make the best informed decisions and have the most success. And this is a topic like I really like to hone in and focus on in my consulting and my training, because I think a lot of sales teams, sales leaders, and even sales trainers focus on closing the sale and what to say when you get an objection. And that is a big part of the sales process. But if you don't have people that are at the point to have a conversation, or enough people to get you to your growth targets, then it doesn't matter how well you can close. You're not going to offset that with like a 80% close rate. That's just not realistic. So I spend a lot of time on the messaging that outbound salespeople could do, taking a marketing type approach towards how they're going out in the market and looking to target people, how they prospect, what's the right messaging to say based on who you're going after. So that's one way I would really like to differentiate my training, my consulting, so that reps are skilled and have the tools to do that at a very high level. So next week, I'll talk through the next stage of the process. So now that you've got people in your pipeline interested to talk to you, now we got to close new sales. And that's where, like I said, we spend a lot of time and effort and energy towards. So we're going to talk about that in the next video. But always appreciate you tuning in. Love to get any feedback you have on this week's video. And I'll see you again next week.